What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Conspiracy or Just a Coincidence. I am Jack Allen. First, go follow me at Kojak Podcast. If you're not, I'm on Twitter and all the socials. So if you want to support or find me, that's where you can find me. And if you want to support the show, I got a bunch of different links or Venmo or whatever. But yeah, just thanks for listening, dude. That's awesome in itself. So what I want to talk about, that's the beginning stuff. I'm out of sorts. I only did one show last week. Tonight, we took a week off from the gym. It's called a deload week. And so we started going back the path, and I'm like sick from going to the gym. I feel my legs are shaking. It's crazy. So I'm all lost is the point I was trying to make. But I don't know if you guys saw Sam Bankman-Fried. He's arrested or whatever. So we'll see where that goes. I didn't even think it was going to get that far, but we'll see what happens to him now. I'm sure he's not got a long time. What's up, David? What's going on, dude? I'm sure we'll see what happens. I don't think he's going to be on this earth too long. They'll probably Epstein him or something like that. And then there was another tweet I wanted to go over, but I think the guy, let me just pull it up on my phone, but I don't know he must be like a small, like a congressman or something like that. But he tweeted about what the government spends money on, what they're spending money on. And guys, it was so sickening, dude. Oh, I'm just trying to find where my bookmarks are. Oh, here it is. So the guy it's Representative Dan Bishop, but he has all these things. What's up, JJJ? What's going on? But yeah, so go check out this at Rep Dan Bishop. He just tweeted like all this money the government's spending, like 200 million for gender equity fund. 13.2, like just all these millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars for nothing. Domestic radicalization phenomenon, 7.5 million to study that. So, just great. We just spend so much money. It's like comical if it wasn't it's not like we have a choice or anything like that, but like that's so much money. You don't think that could be better spent on the people of America? That's how I know that this is like purpose. It is broken on purpose because we are such a wealthy country. We have all these, even though we're in debt, we have all this money. What do we do do we improve the roads? Do we improve our infrastructure? Do we push it to education for kids or whatever? No. We're going to throw 200 million to gender equity. They love these words, equity. What's some more of them? I don't know, but you know what I mean. Anyway, I just saw that right before I started. I was like, dude, you gotta be kidding me. So last episode, we started this book, Rosicrucian America. And dude, it's an awesome book. I probably say that like every show, but it's a really good book if you want to check it out. And so today's episode's a lot about Francis Bacon and John Dee. So that's what this show is, John Dee and Francis Bacon. So hopefully you have time for both, because I know so little about both of them. So if maybe you're like me, you don't know too much about either of these guys. And so this will be perfect for you because now you'll understand how they got so much power, what their backstory was, and all that stuff. So we jump in. We already got a few people here getting ready for Christmas. Oh, yes. And our gift drive thing, we were, I'll tag him. Now I can't remember his name, but we got we helped 3 families. So it's awesome. They had, all these gifts. So thank you to Ron and to Chris and the guy, his name who's blanking for right now, but I'll put it in the show notes because they all donated money and helped out. And yeah, the royal wife swappers, Flippy, they didn't get into that though, but yes, Flippy is totally right. John Dee and Edward Kelly would swap wives, just like, what's his name? Scientology. Oh, L. Ron Hubbard and Jack Parsons. They would switch their wives. Philly Wawa, Brian. What's good? I hope you guys are all ready for Christmas. I took a risk, guys. So last story, and then I'm going to start. Last story. It's tough buying gifts for your wife or your loved ones as you get older. Toys just don't do it anymore. And so she gives me like a small list. So I buy those things, but I want to get some. I'm a big surprise gifter. I want to buy a surprise gift for people. So I bought this mirror because we don't have a long mirror in our house, and you open it and there's like, it holds jewelry, and I thought it was a great idea. And then my wife went on the Amazon. She said, no, I don't need that. So I was so disappointed, but I got a new secret gift. And I don't know if she's listening, so I can't tell you, but I'll let you know how it goes. So we'll see. And hey, was GNA gonna show Xmas and its origins? Oh, yeah. JJ, if you can find a book, I would love to read it. I mean, there's so many people. It's like tough with, obviously, just nowhere in the Bible to say December 25th. And obviously that lines up with some few of the pagan holidays. But yeah. If you ever find a book, send it to me, JJ. I'll read it. Oh, Liv says worried I made her sound mean. No, she was right. We don't need the mirror. But John D, the 007 OG. I like it, Matt. And Nick Hinton was the first one that told me that. And then I was reading this book the next day. He was talking about all those synchronicities. Well, that was a huge synchronicity. All right, so let's get right into Mr. Francis Bacon. Bacon, as I said, he was one of the most powerful forces of change in the 16th, 17th centuries. And he was versed in science, art, literature, government, politics. I mean, the guy was brilliant. He coined new words. Like, he made new words with this immense vocabulary. And I mean, like, that's crazy, dude. Making new words that people then just start using. Like, that's amazing, right? That's like creating up your own knock-knock joke. And people just start doing it. It lights on fire, But his day job, he was a government official. And then in his free time, like many of us, he was writing philosophy, not podcasting, but reading and researching. And he would end up becoming a founder of a lot of secret societies, obviously. So one of the most important things about Francis Bacon is his connections to Shakespeare. So this author, I stopped doing that. I didn't do that chapter because, I try to get to like the good stuff, but basically there's very little likely that Shakespeare wrote anything. And we'll get into some of it, but most likely Francis Bacon did not write all Shakespeare, but he did write a lot of Shakespeare that no intent trespasses is gone. It's debts or sin. I didn't know that, David. David says the Lord's Prayer has been changed. Huh? Where did you hear that, Dave? That's crazy. I've never heard of debts that said that way. Interesting. Flippy, and Brian, I bet you guys were first in line to buy some of Trump's trading cards. You'll have to show the group when you finally get those. Show them off so we can all take a look at how amazing they are. All right. Brian says, Messi took down the Sun Kings boys in the World Cup. Ouch. Dude, I didn't know there's a show on Netflix called Versailles, and it's all about the Sun King, dude. It's an awesome book or awesome show. I'm like, keep watching. It's pretty good. Don't forget about Francis's son, Christopher Paul. Skeptics, see, you always come in with new. This book didn't talk about who's Christopher Paul. Man, jeez. Oh, it has changed in my king. I see. I get why you brought it up, David. Interesting. Yeah, we were just talking, Annika, about the Trump trading cards. I think Brian and Skeptic and Flippy all got some. Pretty sure they were first in line. But anyway, so Shakespeare, Francis Bacon, he co-authored several texts, and he thought around very progressive ideas, but you couldn't publish that, so you had to write around. Oh my God, Skeptic, jeez, dude. So Skeptic said, "Have you heard of Francis Bacon's son?" If you guys didn't just hear me say that, and I said, "No, please tell me, Chris Bacon," and then it's Chris B. Bacon. Hilarious, but then that's very funny, Flippy. But yeah, so one text like that was very progressive was his New Atlantis. He couldn't publish till after that, or he would put different names on these things. He would sometimes credit Christian Rosicrucian for some of his other material. And he never mentions Rosicrucianism by name, but in the novel Atlantis, it was governed by the R.C. brothers. So what are the odds that doesn't stand for Rosicrucianism? But I found that was interesting, right? Like New Atlantis, the story has that the land is governed by the R.C. brothers. And New Atlantis was not a world to conquer where riches were. It was a place for free of religious domination or war. So a lot of these guys, I can't read them. Like they talk about this utopia. They talk like Francis Bacon. He wanted this perfect world where you're total equity. Like we were talking equality, equity. And that sounds good. But I know underneath this, there's this more sinister. I think it's that if they think this is what will make it, they'll do whatever means necessary to do it. So I think that's what happens with a lot of these secret society guys. Maybe they get these young people, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, they want to make real change. They don't realize they're actually just opening the door for more tyranny, less liberty, and less happiness eventually. But Bacon, he was already creating this world with John Dee, and they both were like whispering in Queen Elizabeth's ear. And Bacon and his inner circle funded England's exploration of the New World. There was another book, Advancement of Learning. Of course, he didn't put his name on this either, but he talks about a ship sailing between two obelisks, two triangles, and two owls are on the bottom of the page. So all of that is Freemasonic symbolism. And another book Bacon wrote, the same symbol of the two pillars, which is essentially the symbol employed, as you guys know, by Freemasons. It's a Jachin and Boaz, or however you say it, the two pillars of Solomon's Temple. So yeah, and the pillars are connected by the Sun of Wisdom, or S-U-N as opposed to S-O-N. So Bacon, the point I'm trying to make is that Bacon loved writing in code, and he loved writing in wordplay, hence all the new words he created. And like how the ship with two pillars can be linked to the route to Atlantis that was passing through two pillars of Hercules into the ocean. He was also, this was fascinating too. Bacon was a founding member of the Virginia Company, whose lost ship discovered Bermuda and Newfoundland. So he's literally a discoverer of the world he envisioned. So did he, it's just an amazing that this guy, he's like predicting the future of what's happening, what's going to happen in this new world. Almost like they have like a playbook they're running. At least that's what it sounds like to me. And so I also wanted to bring up was that Bacon, he wrote a lot of Shakespeare, right? And so did his buddies, and they all wrote in code. They all wrote in ciphers and metaphors and things like that. Well, this is like the beginning of Hollywood manipulation, right? Hollywood propaganda that we know today. This is Isaac Weishaupt could probably do shows on Shakespeare and all that stuff because Bacon put all this occult stuff in all of his plays. So Hollywood didn't just start doing that when one day, like, oh, okay, let's start putting secret rituals and stuff like that in the show. No, they've been doing this since plays were started in the 16th century. So I found that interesting. That like made me able to understand better, like, wow. So these secret societies, they're attracted to the theater and the arts, and they use these to put out messages that they can't come out flatly and say. And let me just, here, this is good. So the symbolism of those two columns solidified its way into Freemasonry when Bacon died. And one of the best secrets of Bacon's work with Shakespeare. So Shakespeare, we'll dig into him like maybe later, but he was an illiterate butcher's apprentice. Hence, he didn't write anything. He was a butcher's apprentice. And in these days, not everybody can read. And I can probably guarantee you a butcher's apprentice doesn't know how to read. But remember Bacon's Order of the Helmet? We talked about that last episode. It's just like an order before the Rosicrucianism. But it's depicted with a helmet and a spear. And that's because they named the group after goddess Pallas Athena. And well, her epithet was a shaker of the spear. So now what are the odds of that? That the goddess he picks for his helmet and spear group, her epithet, I'm saying this wrong, epithet, and now I sound like I have a lisp, but it's shaker of the spear. See, he loves code words. He loves playing games with the words. And so I think that's a pretty good indicator, like, oh yeah, he clearly has some involvement with Shakespeare or writing Shakespeare. And the member of the Order of the Helmet called Acon was a king and prince of purple. Obviously dangerous to call him that in person. He needed a frontman for its writings because only royalty could wear purple. And if you're a secret, you're wearing purple, Bacon was wearing purple, excuse me. And so Bacon's motto was occulta veritas tempore patet, and which means a hidden truth comes to light in time. And he knew he would not survive court life. It was known, it was authored, his like politically contentious stuff, like Richard II. It's a Shakespeare play that I think involves deposing a king who would, if you guys remember, Shakespeare is like 90% the son of Queen Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen. The dad's just the only stuff that we don't know. But so Richard II was a play about like overthrowing dethroning a king or queen. So clearly you can't put his name on that because, right, you'll get killed if you are writing stories that are glamorizing overthrowing the government in the 16th century. You didn't have much constitutional protections. And then 1592, members of Bacon's circle crossed paths with the guy William Shakespeare. So this is how these two met in 1592. And Christopher Marlowe, he's a guy, like, that's another fascinating thing. All of Bacon's inner circle, you've heard these names before. I've heard these. They're scientists, they're explorers. And it's just fascinating that they all they grouped together. And again, it's just like setting up this like fake elite system we have today, that Bacon and his whole crew had shared similar beliefs. Well, our top people share the similar beliefs as well. So this pattern continues. It's like humans are very similar each time. I don't know. But these people, they all were helping write Shakespeare because they all shared similar beliefs. They all couldn't put their names on it because they were powerful nobles or in the court or what have you. So Christopher Marlowe, he introduced Shakespeare and Bacon to each other. And then in 1592, this Henry Wriothesley became a patron of Shakespeare. And he was the third Earl of Southampton, whose surname was pronounced Roseley, like, Rosicrucians. But Will's first poems are Venus and Adonis and the Rape of Lucere. I'm not a Shakespeare guy, but that's a pretty crazy title, The Rape of Lucere. The knights always have a patsy. Always, dude. That's a great point, David. I know that's such a good point. Right. Shakespeare is the lone gunman. Thank you, Dave. That's awesome. That's exactly it. He is. He's the lone gunman, the lone gun nut that he just lost it. He hated him so much or whatever. So these poems, though, they're dedicated to his patron, Henry Wriothesley, the same who says that Will's sonnets were also dedicated to. So was the 28-year-old Will professing love for that Henry was only 19? Was he saying he loved this boy? And homosexuality at this time, it was not yet like taboo. Low-born butcher's apprentice, not okay to be a homosexual. You're the king's brother, it's okay to be a homosexual. Like, you have to get married, but you can have a boyfriend or whatever like that, which I found crazy. So I wonder when it flipped. If anyone knows that, put in the chat. Because I found that I was in that Versailles show with the Sun King, his brother, they make him a homosexual. And so I Googled it real quick. I was like, are they just forcing this in? And no, he was absolutely a homosexual. He had a wife though, but he was, he had this guy who was always banging. And so I was like, wow, how is this okay? You wouldn't think so. I must have changed sometime in the maybe 1700s or 1800s, but maybe 1900s. I wonder when. I found that interesting because it's, just odd. Sorry, one sec. It's okay for royals to bugger boys. Well, Dave, that's true too. That's absolutely true. So anyway, even if it wasn't Will who wrote these sonnets, someone was professing their love for Rosie. So that those sonnets and stuff, they were pronounced to Henry Wriothesley, which is pronounced Roseley. So is this a real person? Is this a play on words? Was he picked for this reason to be the person that they dedicate these things to? Just Bacon's fingerprint on all this kind of stuff. And another candidate was this guy, Edward de Vere. He's the Earl of Oxford. He hung out in Rosicrucians in RC circles. And with this guy, the reason why he's probably a Shakespeare writer was there was a portrait of him that shows a hand placed on top of a skull with a red cloth, which is like a Freemasonic ritual. But regardless, these guys, the Roseley guy, they didn't deny or anything like that. And so in 1592, though, totally out of the blue, Shakespeare receives a ton of money. And he bought the second largest house in Stratford upon Avon. And now plays in these days, though very popular, they're not selling for millions of pounds, right? They were really sold cheap. They were probably more as used a propaganda tool or maybe to calm the populace. So the huge sum of money wasn't because they were making bank selling plays. It was most likely to buy Will's silence. it wasn't because, like I said, he wasn't getting this from the theater. The bard was a beard. That's funny, isn't it? The bard was a beard. He was disguising the true authors. So, and also important to note, he was never called the bard in his lifetime. We added that nickname in the end. And this is why do we add that nickname later on in life? Well, let's see. A bard in Celtic context was a learned man. He was a butcher's apprentice who could not read and could hardly write, could kind of sign his name. So is this kind of like a wink and a nod? Like, again, like, oh, the bard, even though Shakespeare was not a learned man in any way, shape, or form. Marlowe, Rosalie, Bacon, all highly educated, probably would have found it amusing attributing their works to this like illiterate bum. And Shakespeare, what did he care? He's getting paid. He's famous. He's getting bank. History remembers his name. And I was like thinking about that. Like, this is, again, human nature. Like, these powerful people, they find a weak this is what the CIA does, right? They find somebody that maybe is down on their luck, needs money, and they brainwash you, propagandize you, or just pay you off, bribe you. And that's what they did to Shakespeare. That's perfect. I know, right? That's like a poetic thing there. So yeah, so he's making tons of money. He can't even sign his name, but he say, yeah, I wrote all this. Of course, put me down there. And the doubting of who Shakespeare really was in 1789, a clergyman, James Wilmot, wanted to write a biography on him. So this is, 120 years later. And this was in the 1780s. He concluded that Shakespeare could not have written anything and that the works were composed by Bacon and other people associated with Bacon's circle. Another person, this school teacher in America, Delilah Bacon, no relation to Francis Bacon, came to the same conclusion. So did Ralph Waldo Emerson. So did Nathaniel Hawthorne. So did Walt Whitman. So did Benjamin Disraeli. So all these powerful people all say Shakespeare didn't write this. Francis Bacon did. So this all sounds very fancy. Do we have any actual proof besides all these circumstantial things? These are the fun ones. These are like the numerology. So get ready here. So Bacon was born in 1561, allegedly. It's a suburb of London, 20 miles north of the city, called St. Albans. Well, this home was referred to in 23 times in Shakespeare, while the birthplace of Shakespeare, Stratford of Avon, is not mentioned once in his 37 plays and sonnets. Yep, he's also credited with the king. And David, hey, kid, want to be rich and famous? Exactly, dude. And yeah, the King, we're going to get into that one in a second. These little, so Bacon's at home 23 times out of 37 Shakespeare plays, but Shakespeare's actual home never brought up. And from childhood, Bacon was a prodigy. As an adult, he would have been versed in science, politics, languages, law, and he enjoyed drama as an amusement. And he was a highborn person. So was Francis Bacon was he the child of Queen Elizabeth? That's probably true. I've now read in like 4 different books that speculation that Francis Bacon is the Virgin Queen's son. The only thing is who's the father differs. So we talked about Francis Drake. This author says Earl of Leicester. And wouldn't that just make sense? His name was Robert Dudley, Earl of Leicester. Both were born in the year before, right around the same time. But it just makes sense, right? Like, these powerful people, they have these weird beliefs. So Francis Bacon being one of the craziest beliefs, one of the biggest Gnostics, or whatever you want to call it, biggest progressives at the time, it would make sense that he's the Queen's kid. It's just funny to see, even 400 years ago, things haven't changed. Like, these people at the top keep pushing towards a goal that we don't know the goal, or maybe we kind of do, not the populace doesn't know the goal. And they just keep moving along because nobody cares. Nobody cares. Anyway, so Queen Elizabeth, the Virgin Queen, her dad was Henry VIII, the guy that I think broke away from the Catholic Church, right, and started the Anglican Church. And her mom was Anne Boleyn, who was murdered by her dad. So definitely some childhood trauma there. If your mom's murdered by your dad and your dad's still not arrested, or still the king, or still the boss of the neighborhood, you probably have some trauma there, I'm going to guess. They have a huge Shakespeare festival in Ashland, Oregon every year. Interesting, dude. And yes, all practice are David the Ancient. Absolutely. I wonder, Matt, if they like. Have you ever gone? I wonder what people say there. Do they think it's actually Shakespeare that wrote it, or do they think, it was Bacon as well? That'd be interesting. But so at 8 years old, Liz confided to Robert that she would never marry the guy that possibly fathered Francis Bacon, probably because she saw her father's marriages. Henry VIII, he kept marrying people, wives being put in prison, heads rolling, imprisonment. Liz and Dudley had both spent time in the tower, the prison tower as well. Her half sister, Mary Tudor, was put in prison to her own half sister. Isn't that crazy? Like, how do you and I know that continues to happen. World War I is all about a war against cousins. It's just crazy though. And the Tudors, I think I told you guys I read this Plantagenet book, and the Plantagenets, they ruled England from like 1,000 to like 1300, and then the Tudors took over, which were their cousins. So I'm reading the Tudor one next, so I'll be interested to learn more about them and how these people. It's just another thing I learned, and I know I'm getting off topic, but kings, queens, I love it. I'm reading because of this book. I was like doing extraneous research, and so France, huge Catholic country, Louis the Sun King, Catholic France. That's at least what my mind thought. But Louis the Sun King, he's a Bourbon. The Bourbons were Protestant, or they weren't Catholic. They weren't Catholic. They eventually denounced Protestantism and said they were Catholic because they wanted to become king. But no, they were Huguenots. And so this like made me go crazy in my mind, tying all these dots, because the previous book was talking about how the Huguenots, the French Protestants who were attacked by the French Catholics and tried to escape, blah, 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 a lot of them became Cathars or Templars. And so I just found that interesting too. Like there's something with the Catholic Church that it's not what it seems, like in the sense that the conspiracy world, how it's the ultimate evil, it's the axis of evil, blah, blah, blah. There's total corruption there. There's so much evil, but there's something else beyond this, because it's so odd that all these Templars are doing things to attack the Catholic Church. And being that the Bourbons were Protestants, Huguenots, they fought the 30-Year War against the Habsburgs, which were Catholic. You see, there's something weird here, or it's just an insane life, like a 1,000-year battle between the Catholic Church and the Knights Templar. But I think there's something more here. Mary, Queen of Scots, aka Bloody Mary. Is that the lady skeptic? If I close my eyes and spin around 3 times in the mirror and say Bloody Mary, she'll pop out? And skeptic, I'm Scottish, so I've been loving a lot of Scottish history. So now I'm gonna have to look up Bloody Mary. But yeah, so Liz, Queen Elizabeth, she saw her mom get killed. She saw being in prison. Ooh, David. Now this is out of our normal zone, but I love it. Love it. He says the Huguenots first landed on Jekyll Island and encountered giants who sacrificed children. Interesting. I tried to get this book on giants a while back because I wanted to take a little break from history. But it wouldn't let me buy it on Kindle. So then I gave it up, but there's documentation on at the museum on Jekyll Island. Ooh, dude, I'm going to have to look that up. That's fascinating. I wouldn't doubt it, dude. I would absolutely not doubt it. The Smithsonian, God knows what they have. God knows. All right. So, Robert, Robert Dudley, the possible father of Francis Bacon, grew up with Liz. I'm calling her Liz just to be kind of cute and funny, Queen Elizabeth. But he grew up with Liz. They had the same tutor. They knew French, Italian, Latin, Greek, and Spanish. They practiced extra French. Wink, wink. Kissing, right? But though in love, it was kept secret. And she loved his wit and charm, I guess. And Robert, he was not a royal blood. And so no one in royal court could marry a lesser noble. And Dudley would end up marrying another girl. And, Liz would attend the wedding angrily. And after a year, Dudley rarely ever went home. He just hung out with the queen at court. And this is going to be hilarious, kind of. So another buddy of the secret couple was none other than John Dee. And he's going to be later on in the episode, but he is fascinating, dude. I can't wait to get to him. I might just zoom through Bacon to get to Dee. And he chose Liz's coronation date and time-based horoscope. And the first acts of the queen Liz points Dudley as master of the horse, which basically was a cushy job. So he could be right next to her, preparing her horses for her carriages and stuff. So they get a lot of contact. Now, if I was Robert Dudley's wife, I'd be a little concerned. I'd say, Robert, you're spending a lot. You're never home. You're spending a lot of time with the Queen. See, if Liv was doing this and hanging out with Edward Habsburg, I'd say, Liv, you seem to be spending very little time here. Are you okay? What's going on? This doesn't seem right. And I'm just joking around here, and it's falling flat. But anyway, okay. So, so rumors swirled, master of the horse. So King Philip of Spain even wrote letters declaring that Dudley was sleeping in the Queen's quarters because Spain and England, they did not like each other. There was always animosity, jealousy. And Robert, he still wanted to lock his chick up, despite the wife still alive. He wants Liz, dude. They are meant to be childhood sweethearts. He's got this nagging wife. Every time he goes home, she's telling him to clean the hovel. She's telling him to brush the horse. And he just wants to chill with his Queen Liz and live the posh life, But his wife's still alive. He married her. He can't just kill her, can he? He can't just chop her off. So he sends Amy, that's his wife, to go live with Anthony Foster, who's a friend of the husband, because supposedly she had some serious illness, totally random serious illness. And Dudley saw an opportunity to be king, and the army was standing in the way. So on top of that, the Queen was pregnant with his child. Mother Anne Dow was put in jail for sharing this information. So it's most likely true. A lady was literally put into jail for saying that the Queen was pregnant. If it wasn't pregnant, would you imprison them? I don't know. You would say, why are you being crazy? Look at me. Do I look pregnant? And suddenly, totally random, of course, Amy, Robert Dudley's wife, dies on 1560. How did she die, you may ask? Oh, well, as it would happen, as Epstein hung himself, as many have fallen, fallen out of helicopters or fallen out of windows. Well, you see, again, MI6 has been around forever. They've been doing this stuff forever. And Amy, Robert Dudley's wife, she fell down a staircase. And Sir Robert was supposedly not present, which must have been, that would be really hard to get away with at that time. Were you home? No. Okay, he wasn't home. We have evidence. He said no. Let's wrap this up. She fell down the stairs. I'm being joking because there's no cameras. That's crazy, though, about the Huguenots, dude. The Mercy Rhyme, Mary, quite contrary, is about Mary, Queen of the Scots. Ooh, see, skeptic, interesting little fact. I'm going to have to, like I said, look at Queen Mary of Scotland here to find out some information. And so then 4 days later, Dudley and the Queen secretly married. And Spanish ambassador to England was tipped off. And so one of the most powerful, trusted advisors in the court, Cecil, he spread the secret to Spain because he worried that he would lose his top dog spot with the Queen because he's like the Queen's number 2. And if she marries Robert Dudley, he's going to get pushed out. Robert Dudley's going to take over for him. And Cecil even said Dudley told him that he was going to kill his wife. So, he's in the friend zone, right? This Cecil guy, he's in the friend zone with the Queen. The lifelong Chad, Robert Dudley, is coming back in the picture. You got to end it, right? You got to end it. Accidents happen, don't they? Absolutely. But there was a lot of, it's hard to tell with comments of being facetious or not. I feel for Robert Dudley's wife. Yes, so do I. She just wanted to be in love. And her husband's in love with another woman, and then he pushes her down some stairs and she dies after being slowly poisoned as well. That's what is speculated. And then, like I said, that Cecil guy who's jealous of Dudley, he's telling people about the secret marriage. And let me just, so then the secret marriage is supposed to happen. The Spanish and French say, if this marriage actually happens, we will remove you from the throne. So obviously the public wedding was put off indefinitely, but her pregnancy could not be hidden. Oh, I'm sorry, David. I didn't know. Remember, so Amy Dudley, she died 1560. Okay. 5 months later, Francis Bacon was born. So the timing is so odd, right? That the that this Robert Dudley, who probably impregnated the queen, her wife dies, and 5 months later the baby was born. So that means for 4 months they knew they were pregnant or whatever. And Bacon also resembled what Dudley looked like. It's just, these stories, it's just, again, it's like a drama, dude. It's like a TV show, reality show. I just am surprised that people haven't changed at all. Like these secret marriages and children and love triangles and all that stuff like that. I guess the only thing that's different is very few people today that are in reality TV shows are doing occult magic, So Nick ended up with the Bacons. Nicholas Bacon was Francis Bacon's father. He was close to the high ups in the Queen, and his mom, Lady Anne Bacon, was a daughter for a prominent family, and she was even a tutor for the future King Edward VI. And the Bacons, again, totally randomly, were given a brand new house when they, quote unquote, birthed Bacon. More like they were paid off like Shakespeare and got a new free home. And many sources say Robert Dudley and the Queen got it on to make Bacon. One guy got put into jail for it. Another guy got his ear cut off for saying such a thing. And one Queen's letter she wrote about Bacon, it is not my meaning to treat him as a ward, meaning it was her intention to treat him as a son, not as a ward. So he got the finest education. He went to study law school, and it was in this time he was studying at a lawyer. His mom heard that Francis Bacon was a homosexual, writing to his brother about her concern of his choices in bed partners. And the brother she wrote to, Anthony, was also a homosexual. But at the time, many homosexuals would take women as wives, and it was much different then, as we already kind of talked about. So I wondered that too. Like this Francis, the guy that's created the secret society set up and all these occult systems and rituals and doing magic. He was the protege of John Dee. Is there something why he's is there something why what are the chances that all these people are homosexuals? Like, is this something that possibly happens to them when they do these occult rituals or what have you? Is that in itself an occult ritual? So I just found that interesting, like why this was kept over and over and over. This example that we see over, or swapping wives, all these sexual degeneracy type of things, not normal, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. And a long-standing sex affair with a same-sex partner might be considered affection without implying sex, even if suspected it was not openly discussed, was called a coach companion. So if you had a gay lover back in the 16th century, they weren't your gay lover. They weren't your bro. They were your coach companion. I think we should bring that back. That's a very polite way to say your boyfriend. Oh, this is Jack. He's my coach companion. And say, oh, coach companion. Got it. I just love that, coach companion. But just to be a sodomite, to be a pederast, it was illegal, and you could get fined in those days. The bunghole I agree, David, is a portal. So that's why I think it's so prevalent. We keep seeing this. Yes, Shakespeare was a butcher's apprentice, Matt. So, he was illiterate. He's only signed his name 6 times. Each of the 6 times, it is totally different than the last. And this is because he's illiterate and maybe someone signing for him originally and he tries to do it. But this man, the Shakespeare plays, because I didn't want to do it on the show. It was just a whole chapter that the original skeptic, dude. Wow. What? See, I'm not an idea man. I always say that. I can just read stuff and write notes. So I don't know if skeptic that I'm putting that on the comments, dude. The original gay mafia. Wow. Because you guys know that Hollywood, they call it the gay mafia. There's a lot of power there. They talk about the parties with rappers, blah, blah, blah. You have to, to move up to get the #1 Billboard song. And all these guys that wrote the plays then were also homosexual. Wow, dude. Oh my, you just blew my mind, skeptic. That's amazing. I'm going to have to look more into these people and see they were roommates. No, they were coach companions, my friend. But damn, that was good, dude. That my mind's burning here. So Bacon, he was cautious in his writings, but would leave signs that would point to him as the author, right? You want the people, if you know, right? You don't want to spend all this time writing something to not have them know, like how I don't use my real name, but I show you my face. Like if I was just a blank person, you work so hard on all this stuff, you want to be like recognized for it. Sorry, I got like, indigestion or something. I was just reading Skeptic's comment again. They were roommates. All right. Okay. Back. So he wrote a text to begin to be wary of the sun. And this phrase is seen in Macbeth. And as a Freemason, his favorite code was a Kabbalistic cipher, in which the same name, Bacon, was number 33. And I was just telling my wife this 33rd degree. Oh my God, is how you get 33rd degree. David, what are the odds of that? We both bring this up. But I bet you're right. That's the brown eye, I think they call it. But so that's one of the reasons why 33 is so important is Bacon's name adds up to 33. That's why Scottish Rite Freemasonry, which is a Rosicrucian offshoot, had the highest degree at 33. Masons say this a little bit about this number, but they represent the interface of a familial world with a spirit world. And his masonry connections got him, Bacon, into Parliament in 1584, an impossible feat. I mean, again, this guy was not royal. Well, he technically was royal, but not known royal. But he made it into Parliament without money or connections because he had secret connections. That's the point I'm making. And in secret writings, they continue being wary of and to annoy the Queen and his real father, the Earl of Leicester. And he actually got the greatest power, his father, Robert Dudley, the greatest power ever given to a non-monarch, the pink in the stink. Oh my gosh. I think Shakespeare being a butcher is a code word for Matt. Dude, you guys are brilliant. That's an amazing idea. I think and maybe even if it's not like working with meat, because I wonder the etymology of the word, I would not be surprised, Matt, if there's some like Latin, this means this or this, because and Shakespeare also, I thought I was going to say it by now, but so in the book of Psalms, Bacon helped write King James Version of the Bible, right? The 42nd first word, so the first words, the 42nd one is shake, the 42nd last word is spear. So it's like, and there's significance to 42. I don't know what it is, but he picked that not just for any reason. So why, like it just proves, yes, Francis Bacon is Shakespeare or one of Shakespeare's writers. The Robert guy, we're just going to keep going here. So the one guy, I don't know if this is important. It's just not important. Okay, sorry. So Bacon would prosper after Elizabeth's death, even though she never gave him the recognition that he wanted. His friend Southampton, his possible dad, never forgave him for his role in the Essex prosecution. So that's what I skipped. Francis Bacon's friend tried to throw a rebellion for the Queen, blah, blah, blah. And he had to prosecute him, even though he didn't want to. And his dad never forgave him because that was one of his good buddies or something. I don't know. Just drama, drama. Mic drop. Yes, Lev, you got it. I think I told that we hang out with these two old people, Liv and I. They're 90 and they live in a real fancy old folk home. They don't have any kids. And I met the guy, Jack, when I was at the gym, when I was manager of a gym. And so we've been hanging out with them for 4 years. So we went over to eat with them and he was a Freemason and her dad, Evelyn, so they're 90s. So her dad was actually a 32nd degree Mason in whatever area. The name of their town in PA was named after them for a while. But so I always tell him my Freemasonic knowledge and see what he says. So they're always impressed with so I was bringing up Francis Bacon last night. Little bastard. So anyway, Bacon, he gets knighted by the new King James, and he was now able to write unanonymous works because his mom's dead, less pressure. Not all of his works he could do. David. Well, he's 92. I don't think they want him in the club anymore. But Bacon, he was on the rise. He penned New Atlantis at this time. This was when he wrote that. And his utopia rulers ruled judiciously as a result of wisdom. That pipe dream. clearly dangerous to release. And the cover of New Atlantis, I found this interesting, depicted Father Time, Saturn, leading a female figure out of a dark cave. And said, in time, the secret truth shall be revealed, his motto. So now, even though Bacon was a homosexual, he did get married. He was 46. Listen to this, guys. He was 46. She was 14. And I know this is a different time. I know this is a different time. But why is this sounding like everything our elites do? This is like Epstein. This is what Epstein did. This is what Ghislaine Maxwell did. And that's what Francis Bacon did. So I just found that interesting. Well, David Secrets, I've told him what I know, and he'll like say some things, but he's giving me books and stuff. But like I tell my theories and he laughs, and that's, he's a very nice guy. Didn't want to take that last degree. I know, right? I know. But yeah, they're such lovely old people. Oh, we love them. We love them so much. They're so nice. We feel so no kids, but so we always go and hang out with them. All right. I know that was way off topic. Okay. So he's going to marry 46, 14, marrying this young child. And purple could only be worn at royalty at this time. Bacon wore purple to his wedding. Now, how the heck did he get away with that, right? The king, nobles, the royalty, they don't want everyone wearing purple. So you would think that if this guy is thinking he's hot for his britches, is wearing purple, you would come get him, right? But I think it was because King James knew that he was his brother, right? Not his brother, related. He was the queen's son, actual son. And his first biographer, the first biographer that ever wrote about Francis Bacon, wrote Bacon was born in purple. So I want to get to John Dee. So I'm just, okay. Yes. Okay. We'll do a little more Bacon here and then we'll switch to John Dee. Let me see how much Bacon we got left. Oh, we're almost done with him. Okay. All right. Perfect. Because John Dee was like so fascinating. So I hope you're learning a little bit about Francis Bacon. You have an idea. I mean, this is the guy that built the secret societies, right? He built everything that we associate with evil today. He rose it up to a new level. So he must have been a brilliant man. Bacon would sponsor the voyages of the Virginia Company, leading to establish a colony in Bermuda. And a shareholder, Earl of Pembroke and Montgomery, had first Shakespeare plays dedicated to them. So a shareholder of the VA company, which Francis Bacon owns part of and is sending out across to the New World, two people that have a lot of shares in his company, totally by chance. Shakespeare loved them too, and he dedicated the plays to them. And Bermuda got incorporated into the Virginia colony, minted coinage known as hog money. Hog money. This is like a skeptic joke. Hog money, probably a Bacon reference. Like, why else would you call minted coins hog money? And his crest on the side of the coin with a ship on the other. And he created democracy there, which was not approved by King James and would forbid the circulation of hog money. That's just, I literally feel like skeptic he's writing my notes right now and making this joke. Hog money. We lost okay. And then in 1609, the Virginia Company sent a company of colonists to Virginia, which wrecked on Bermuda. And this is the basis for Shakespeare's story, The Tempest. 42 is from Douglas Adams. Hitchhiker's is supposedly the answer to everything. No way, guys. You guys are blowing my mind, dude. Blowing my mind. That is crazy. So means, yeah, born in purple, you're the child of a reigning monarch. And I've seen like Twitter accounts talk about that, like purple. Have you guys seen those accounts? I don't really agree with anything they say, like Human Vibration. I don't know if she's still on Twitter, but she would always tweet about the color purple and pink and things like that. And so this has been going on since Egyptian times. Purple there's some, I guess it's very rare, very hard to make. Everything Shakespeare was, Bacon was not. Bacon was polymath, born to royalty, studied law, understood court life, and firsthand experience from his brothers of military, navy, faraway lands. Bacon was versed in Greek, Latin, read the classics, fluent in European languages, and prerequisites all needed for writing Shakespeare plays. These characters were often public servants, like Bacon. They weren't a butcher's apprentice. He created new phrases, words in his notebooks, some that would be seen in Shakespeare plays. So what, are they just reading? Is Shakespeare reading Bacon's diaries? Is he reading his mind? Is that how he's getting these newly created words in his diary onto his play? Or because it's the same, it's Bacon wrote it. And then one letter mentions measure to measure, a reference to Bacon's work for Julius Caesar. And like I said, Bacon wrote in ciphers, and a picture is worth 1,000 words. And it made me think symbolism will be their downfall, that QAnon slogan. Such a smart group of listeners. The color skeptic, damn, dude, you rock. The color purple came from snails that were hard to get. That's why it's so expensive. Skeptic, that is mind-blowing. Indigo children, I've heard that phrase too. That's interesting as well. Walt Disney was a Rosicrucian. Matt, I totally forgot about that. And thank you for bringing that up, because yes, Walt Disney was a Rosicrucian. And again, I said this a few times now. I think that Freemasonry was created out of Rosicrucianism and Templarism as a shield to protect these two groups. So totally makes sense that Club 33 and Rosicrucian Disney, this all makes perfect sense. Oh my gosh. And what are the Bacon writes plays, puts symbolism in his plays, metaphors in his plays. What does Walt Disney do? He's a Rosicrucian. He puts symbolism in his plays, occult rituals in his plays, sexual degeneracy in his hidden in drawings. Damn, dude. And Annika, yes, combined. I'm sure that's why they did it. Why the Republicans are red and the Democrats are blue. Guys, we are like breaking ground here today. You guys are blowing my mind. This was awesome. This was so great. The vast majority of American flags at Disney aren't really American flags. What do you mean? I gotta memorize what they say into Django. They're like Django Unchained, and they're like, "You had my attention, but now you have my curiosity," or whatever. Indigo children is like, they're trying to, and correct me if I'm wrong, skeptic, but they're trying to create like a magic child, right? Or the child is magic. Like they say, like children with autism or indigo children, but they have like special occult powers. They can read minds, and that's the goal. That's the keep of the new agers, the woke, yes, special Uber babies, right? Like superhero babies that they're trying to create, whether through science, whether through rituals. That's just all they are. So the death of Francis Bacon. Let's end Ubermensch babies. Exactly. Let's end Francis Bacon. In 1626, so this was fascinating. He took ill. He died in his friend's house. Wink, wink, right? So many famous people have faked their deaths. Elvis, Jim Morrison, King Arthur. Bet you didn't think I was going to add that one in there. And even possibly JFK. And there's very little public mention of his death. No funeral, no burial ceremony. This guy is a trailblazer. He is a pathfinder. But yet there's no one mention of his death. He was in the Queen's court. He wrote, he's on all these prestigious groups and learned men. Not one mention of his death. What? That doesn't make any sense. Why not? Why not? There's no burial ceremony. And even though he has a wife, right? And there's a vault, though. However, a vault under tombstone in St. Michael's Church was sealed after his death. And on the tombstone, this was amazing, guys. On the tombstone, sealed under St. Michael's Church, was Bacon wearing a hat. Well, it's okay. You say, so what? Well, I don't know if you guys knew this. In kindergarten, we take off our hats. The J takes off its hat when it comes into kindergarten. So you wouldn't do this line anymore. You just made a big J. Takes off his hat. And so did Francis Bacon and everyone else in the 16th century at church. You had to take off your hat. So why on the tombstone is Francis Bacon wearing a hat? Unless it's his play on words, a secret under my hat. Some say he escaped to Holland, never returned. Holland gave shelter to many who fled England, known as the Separatists. They would board ships like the Mayflower and bound for New Atlantis. But like human nature, these escaping prosecution would bring their own brand of intolerance. Massachusetts, it's funny, all these people are escaping religious intolerance. They come to a place that's their religion, they're intolerant. But they banned like playing of cards, dancing. Sounds like Footloose to me. Yeah. Geez, the Pilgrims were like Footloose, except just funnier clothes. It stinks. I wish like I could just have you guys like on a voice chat. So when I make a joke, I know it was like, is it really bad? Or is it like, haha, little chuckle, you know? Because I say it and then I pause and I'm like, what am I waiting for? No one's going to say anything. Let me just read it. 42 degrees of the angle you can see a rainbow at. Ooh, that would be interesting. Yeah, awesome. Yes. Oh, you guys are great. Yeah. Okay. So, Rosicrucian. So the point I was making with the Pilgrims and Footloose not dancing and playing cards was that Rosicrucianism would come to and survive in places like Philadelphia, where it would spread to other cities. But Pennsylvania was a huge Rosicrucian hometown. And it's funny, obviously I'm from Pennsylvania, but what makes me interesting is that what were the key places of the revolution? Philadelphia, Boston. And I guarantee you, if we looked, there's going to be lots of Rosicrucian affiliated people in these areas because this is what they want, this utopia, but they don't know how to get it, or they're willing to do whatever it takes. And usually involves a lot of violence and death. You need a laugh track button. A girl, that is so true. I do. I have a soundboard, but it like doesn't work that great. It was probably a waste of money. My wife makes fun of me for this because I buy stuff without looking at it. Like I can't tell you how many times I bought, I've tried to buy my cats cat food and have bought them dog food. Like I cannot tell you how. For a while, I was buying litter, right? Just off Amazon, boop, picking it off. And then I looked one day and I'm like, wow, my bill, they're charging me $85 for shipping and handling. So that person who was selling that litter, it was like not a prime person. They were making a killing on me because I kept buying litter from them because I just said buy again, not look at it. And yeah, so that's seems like are you feeling better? Seems like faking illness to get out of walking, Charlie. A little bit. Our nation was founded by Templars. I agree, David. I think it was definitely, at the time, Rosicrucian. Yes, no, you're absolutely right. Templars, malingerer. Funny. All right. The Puritans banned Christmas. Did they, dude? Wow. So the Pilgrims, they did not celebrate Christmas. Okay. Let's get to our last chapter here. Well, we'll see how much we can get done because I really. Oh, no, we'll be perfect. It's only 4 pages. Nice, guys. All right. We'll get it all done here. Okay. So the queen had been on the throne since 1559, right? She ruled with an iron fist. She was a vicious lady. Yes, she is, skeptic. She could have just arrest anybody. Like you looked at the queen wrong, the Virgin Queen, you were thrown in the Tower of Prison, the prison Tower of London. There was no Miranda rights then. There were no, remain silent and all these things like that. And JJ, you elaborate. I don't know. I can't read what kept away from all occultic high days. The first professional police force was in New York, I think, to quell Christmas revelers. David, that's fascinating. Wow. Yeah. Today, yeah, absolutely. All right. So she was the queen, though. This was hilarious about the Virgin Queen. So she would throw anybody in jail she wanted. So she loved to travel. That's what historians will tell you. She would go and stay at her nobles' houses. She loved to see the English countryside. Is that why the queen was traveling? She just loved to ride in a horse carriage all day? Or was it more likely that she loved going to these nobles' houses because they had to get her a gift every time she came? So who doesn't like gifts? Speaking of Christmas. So Liz, she just run on to each house. Hey, I'm coming to your house for the weekend. I'll see you in 5 days. Get a nice gift. She says, all right, I'm out. Maybe I can only stay one night. I hit more houses, get more gifts, and just keep getting gifts all year round. But I found that made me laugh. Like, I'm thinking of like the Queen of Hearts, in Alice in Wonderland or whatever. That's who I'm imagining Queen Elizabeth is. She's like, off with your head, and like also very like, oh, just narcissistic and all these things. Yeah, Puritans do get a bad rap, dude. I get it, dude. I get the traditional. See, there is no like happy medium because people suck. People ruin everything. We try to have a happy medium. Some traditional things, but realize some things are unfair in a pure traditional sense. And this is what happens. So I get why the Puritans were so strict, because they knew better than us. If you give people the choice to act with the flesh and carnal desires without God, all they're doing is drugs, porn, and junk food, and getting, lazy. Okay. So before she inherited the throne, so she got all the gifts, blah, blah, blah. She had a fascination from her father, which I didn't know, with the astrology and the occult. And before coronation, she reached out to John Dee to oversee the casting of her horoscope. And he would go on to pick the date and time of her coronation. So who was Dr. John Dee? This was the Aleister Crowley, but even more earth-shattering, right? More groundbreaking. I mean, this guy was the catalyst that initiated England's settling of the American continent. That was him, because that's why it happened, because of John Dee. He was a magician with a K, magic mirrors, crystal balls. Supposedly he could even make himself levitate. And I really I'm interested because I just saw another video about somebody else saying they could levitate, like this real old guy. And I don't doubt it. I know that sounds crazy, but why would John Dee even say that? I mean, this guy, as we're going to find out, he is a brilliant man. He is scientific discoveries, map making, cartography. Obviously, that's map making. So I just said it twice. But all these things, he's not a mentally ill person that says, I can fly. No, it's just, I bet I've heard of priests doing it. I'm saying that Dee was able to do it because he communicated with demons or whatever. Her funeral was a ritual. Yeah. I wonder if all the lead and arsenic and Elizabeth makeup made her a little extra. Dude, you're probably, yeah. Doesn't she remind you of the Queen of Hearts? Anyway, Adam Friedland show. I don't know if I know that, Flippy. Okay. So he was living in Rosicrucianism ideals before Bacon even thought about it. He was he was Bacon's mentor, and he was an alchemist before alchemy became a science of chemistry. He was a historian, a cartographer. Mercator, the Mercator map guy, consulted with John Dee. He coined the term Britannia. That's his word. He induced the Queen to set up the Royal Navy, the Navy that would go on to conquer the world, essentially, that would dominate and make Britain the greatest power the world had seen up until that point. That was John Dee. He convinced her that she was a descendant of King Arthur, and thus America was in her inheritance. That's how he got the Queen to start sending ships over, was because he said the theory is King Arthur died suppose in America. That's the story. Guest chat, old man. Oh yeah, Flippy. Is that where you're brilliant, dude? God, I got the smartest gosh darn people in the chat here. Maybe it's code levitate, get high. That's funny. But Flippy, so that it's from the Adam Friedland show, that old guy. Yeah, he said, oh, I could levitate a little off the ground. And then it was weird that I just read that with John Dee. The Bright Empire, John Dee kickstarted British colonization. Pretty much. Yes. Great, Annika. That's exactly right. The Bright Empire, the British Empire. Up to buff. Okay. All right. He was also a spy, the code name 007. England, and real quick, 007, Nick Hinton brought that. I'm sure you all know that. But 007 was Francis Bacon. Well, who was Bacon's, John Dee was 007. Who was John Dee's protege? Francis Bacon, 008, like Trevor in James Bond 007, the Goldeneye, whatever. England was a political hotbed of intrigue when Liz took the throne. Plots, counterplots, assassinations, threats of war. And she needed to be able to trust her people. And she trusted so few. I keep a small circle, I'm not with different crews. We walked the same path, but just got on different shoes. We in the building, and you just in the Little Wayne right above it. All right. So, yeah, she has a small circle, a lot of counterplots, stuff like that. Oh my gosh, guys. Because I was singing, I scrolled down. Despite all these accomplishments, history does not look good on John Dee. He was her master spy, by the way. She only reported to him, her and Francis Walsingham. History totally marginalizes Dee's accomplishments. For example, Isaac Newton, guys, he's an alchemist, just like John Dee. Dedicated much of his life to the great work, which is converting lead to gold. But history views him very favorably. We all know who Isaac Newton is. If you ask an elementary school kid who's John Dee, they're not going to know who John Dee is. And John Dee was born in 1527, descended from an ancient Welsh family that held a minor post in the English royal household. He attended Cambridge College. And here we get into really crazy John Dee stuff. Again, he's in theater. He's in the drama club. So again, we are linking the occult and theater back to the 1530s. And I wonder how much further it goes back than that. I bet it does. I bet it just keeps going back because there's something about acting that is like a ritual or something weird. I can't figure it out, like why that spycraft and entertainment is all through these rituals. I guess that's how they've done it forever. That's how they hid it in plain sight, was through these plays, and they just continue that practice. So anyway, he was the drama club. He was doing a Greek play, like total dork, dude. And he caused a great stir when he had levitated on the play. And then he caused a great scarab to rise and fly across, carrying a man with a basket. What? So he got a bug to carry a basket and he levitated on the play. Like, even if the boring historians will say it was just stage magic, but regardless, after this moment, he is known as a sorcerer. Kind of like they refuse to remember Jack Parsons. Yeah, another great example, Macman. Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like Dee is like the precursor of a, Jack Parsons type character. Maybe more L. Ron Hubbard. I don't know. Parsons wasn't really a spy. But yeah, I agree with you. So yeah, a scarab flying across with a bat. Yeah, Egyptian Ra. That's what I was thinking, Flippy. Because the scarabs are so. Lashland, what's up, dude? Thanks for coming. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, buddy. But John Dee, he would only sleep for 4 hours a night. He would read and learn in his spare time. Now, sorcery was illegal at this time, right? So how's he doing all this? So he crosses the English Channel to go to Belgium to practice his magic. Now, he was so charismatic and so like Harry Potter powerful. He had his own sect of followers that followed him before Rosicrucianism ever existed. Sorry, I think I have toothpaste on my. All right. Though not a Freemason, he had a fascination with architecture, studied what Freemason studies, and there's interesting connections between my pirate episode, and Dee wrote that Solomon's temple could not have been built without Hiram's sailors. So he's almost like passing the buck. It's not just the stoneworkers that build Solomon's temple, it's the sailors as well. And what do the Templars love? They love architecture, they love piracy. So I just found that like another weird connection, right? Yeah, I knew they changed because Skeptic. I read 2 Parsons books. The one on his wife, Marjorie, can't remember her name. It's called Wormwood. And then I read another one about like Rocket, something. It's like a funny comic cover. It's really good. It's really good. What's her name? Margaret. Oh, God, I can't think of Jack Parsons' wife's name. Damn it. All right. Anyway, let's get back to John Dee. So he was referred to by his followers as a god. Pretty crazy. And Dee's associates and influences were with their connections to he had all these connections to Rosicrucianism, or he will. For example, all of his servants, and servants doesn't mean slave. It's like people he's mentoring, his proteges. They were involved with Rosicrucian ideals and alchemy. For example, Roger Cook. This is a funny story. Templars were the first central bank. You nailed it, David. 14 years, from 1567 to 1581, he followed Dee and then he returned to follow Dee in 1600. This is a hilarious story. So Roger, okay, he loves John Dee. He loves John. You could say maybe he sucks his, you know what? Well, Roger Cook decides to change his name from Cook to Cock. Classic. Cook to Cock. And now I immediately thought of penis, right? That's what I thought when I hear the word cock, but also could have meant rooster, which is a spiritual symbol of Satan, the morning star, the morning bird. You understand. Marjorie Cameron, thank you. Thank you, Matt Penner. Thank you. I couldn't do it. I was saying Margaret. Geez. But yeah, so that was one of his followers, Roger Cock, who changed his name willingly from Cook to Cock. So again, we're seeing this. I don't know. I mean, at the time, I don't know if cock meant male reproductive organ. Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. I have no idea. Cucking for, dude, Macman, that's effing awesome. So everyone, let's sit and laugh at this joke. Cucking for that D. Ooh, man, that pun is awesome. Nice. Way to go, Macman. That's baller. I love it. I might tweet that later or something to figure out a way to drop it in. And then Cock went to work for Cornelius Drebbel, and Drebbel was considered to be one of the most important Rosicrucians, inventor. This guy, dude, was so brilliant. The guy that Cock went to work for, I'm just going to keep laughing. That's whatever. But he built the first navigatable submarine. This is 1500s, right? Telescopes, microscopes, hydraulics for the theater, and something, again, I found interesting. Oh, I already mentioned the occult in the theater. And yeah, okay. No, we already did all that. So Drebbel would eventually find employment with Emperor Rudolph II of Prague. Prague was a hotbed of occult magic at this time. Like totally, like Dee went there with all these other magicians. Like the guy, Rudolph's court. Listen to this, guys. Rudolph's court, he was a Habsburg in Prague, was filled with dwarfs, giants, people with deformities, magicians. Like it literally was a circus. So when they say that politics was a circus, Emperor Rudolph II, his court was most certainly a circus. Like he has people with, extra limbs, extra fingers, blah, blah, you can't see, whatever, dwarfs, giants, John Dee. And now Drebbel. Another assistant, he would become a member of the Royal College of Physicians. And so the only reason why I brought that up was because already we are seeing secret society controlling the healthcare, controlling the medical field. Jacopo Borcato, he's a Christian Kabbalist who wrote the Revelation of St. John. Now, the Revelation of St. John. Okay, St. John. Now, what did the Templars, Rosicrucians, Gnostics in general all believe? Oh, that John was the Messiah. And he predicted that they would find Christian Rosencreutz tomb before the victory over the Antichrist. So the point I'm trying to make is Dee had powerful friends. This power eventually allowed him to return to England, where he became tutored by the Duke of Northumberland. And one of the sons was Robert Dudley. Do you guys remember Robert Dudley? He was the one porking the Queen, the childhood who pushed his wife down the stairs. So one of the sons that John Dee came back to England to tutor was Robert Dudley. It's an incestuous circle, everybody. And he was super skilled with maps. I told you how he hung out with Mercator. He would get hired by the Muscovy Company. They were trading with Russians. And he returned to England in 1589 when he got the attention of King Edward VI, who gave him a yearly pension. King Edward VI dies, and Liz took John Dee under her protection, and where he presented her with the horoscopes as her sister Mary took the throne. Mary didn't like him. Mary did not like John Dee. After he drew her horoscope, he imprisoned him, but his girl Liz got him out. Liz she's a down to ride girl, right? She's ride or die for John Dee. The original sin. Royal Circle and Chick. David, that's so good. Ooh, Tesla of his day. I like that. I like that a lot because we know history may not repeat, but it rhymes. And that's a great example. Okay. Dee believed he could gain supernatural assistance, not from the saints, but this is where we get really into the occult. This I was voraciously reading. but by focusing on the dark sciences. He believed that he could use his powers to find treasures, and since illegal, he had to get the queen's permission. So what monarch doesn't want to hear? I can get you treasure, but I got to do magic. And just like how our explorers were pirates, our famous scientists were all occultists, just like David said. Allegedly pushed his wife down the stairs. Exactly. Allegedly. But so all our scientists were starting to feel like all scientific advancements were like they were from shady people. Like all these guys in this time were all doing magic. And all of our scientists today seem to be doing some type of magic. When did it start? When does it stop? Kepler, all Archimedes, all these people are, not Christian, but you understand. They're not really Christians. They're deists at minimum, at worst, secret society members that are sacrificing people. And it's scary, dude. And I feel like an Amish man or a Mennonite, but I worry, like, has all this technological advancement, all the scientific advancement, is this attributed to devil worship? And I know that sounds ridiculous and silly, but all these scientists that did these things were trying to talk to Satan. Not all, I'm being hyperbolic here, but okay. For example, Thomas Harriot, he's a numerologist. He's like GG33, if you guys know who that is. Kepler, also a numerologist, and said numbers ruled every aspect of creation and cast horoscopes. Does that sound like something a Christian would say? CERN, David, yes, dude, that's an even better example. Better. So see, nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. They were doing it then all over Europe. They're doing it now. And I bet if we look, the exact location of CERN, I bet something was there before it. You know how they roll. Kepler's mom actually was accused of being a witch. And Kepler, he's the, I think, temperature guy, right? Kepler? I don't know. But she was a witch. She was in prison for being a witch. Robert Flood, a friend of John Dee, super big alchemist, just as esoteric, be remembered and esteemed in the science community. Robert Flood was. He was just as esoteric, just as practicing in witchcraft and magic and wizardry. But science views favorably on Robert Flood. History views him favorably. He was also a member of the College of Physicians with Robert Boyle. He had close ties to the Palatine in Germany, where Rosicrucianism flourished. And Palatine was instrumental in the 30-Year War, which would happen, 20, 30 years after this, when the Protestants fought the Catholics. So again, I bring this up. There is something weird here with Catholicism being fought against these occult Huguenot Templars, pirates that are Templars, all of these things. Like were the Jesuit, what I'm just throwing this out there, and I'm sure it's not, I can argue both ways with it, but there's something weird here. And I got to keep investigating. Like, is the Catholic Church the target to hit? Is that the one they put out there, it's been fully corrupted, fully taken over. And maybe at one time it was standing against a lot of these things that we see today. Is that possible? And I don't know if I don't have an opinion yet, but I found that I just keep seeing the same pattern. And when I see that, it makes it so easy. Like these same people that are doing devil worship and stuff, they're always attacking the Catholic Church. And is that, maybe it's just retribution, maybe it's just payback, but it seems to be more than that. All right, let me read some of these comments real quick. Thank you, Matt. The book in Enoch was fallen angels that taught mankind the advanced sciences. And I like the Nephilim, right? So, and I know that's silly, but Boaz and Jachin supposedly housed the 7 arts. Interesting. The Jesuits have a telescope on Mount Graham in Arizona named Lucifer. I think I've seen that, Skeptic. The Jesuit order exists for the sole purpose of stuffing the Protestant Reformation. Agreed. Yeah. And I think I was raised Presbyterian or Protestant. So I'm really like, a lot of people get very heated on which group you are in Christianity. I don't know enough, so I have no opinion. So that's why when I just see these patterns, I like to throw them out to you guys and see if you've seen the same thing, because sometimes if it's too easy, it makes me wonder. Many Pennsylvania immigrants are Rosicrucians. I already said that. So Boyle, This guy, Boyle, he's a Rosicrucian. He's the founder of the Invisible College, which wasn't just people who wanted to speak freely. That's what they said it was. It was like, oh, so we could talk about science and art. It was actually a network of name like the CFR or the high ups at the Trilaterals or the Bilderberg Group. It's a network of nameless adepts who keep alight the alchemical flame of occult works. Boyle was Newton's teacher in alchemy. He claimed to be an Aryan, and the ancients were more knowledgeable than scientists today. This is Robert Boyle speaking. And we use his formulas in chemistry or whatever, science class. But I found it funny that even then in the 1600s, Robert Boyle was saying that the ancients are more knowledgeable than we are today. And Mercury had discolored Robert Boyle's hair. But again, see, does this sound like something that was a Christian scientist? No, he was most well known for Boyle's Law, which is constant temperature. Who cares what it says? But as many who play with spirits and demons, Boyle eventually has a breakdown, or he was being poisoned. But regardless, science class taught us Boyle. They definitely did not bring up that he's a magician, wizard, practicing the dark arts of, trying to scry and talk to demons and things like that, and secret society trying to overthrow the Catholic Church. None of that got brought up. And John Dee, they just totally leave out. So why is Dee not remembered like Boyle or Flood? Why? Why is he forgotten? Now, Dee got some money from the Queen, but not that much because he needed ample room. Like he wanted assistants and, he wanted like a whole staff of people. So he was allowed to take over his mother's house, and this became the finest private library in Europe. It contained over 4,000 volumes, and this was before the printing press. That's so many books. Also home to his magic mirror and his crystal balls. One of his crystal balls still sits in the British Museum today, and the Queen would send ladies in waiting to go look at the mirror, because I guess his mirror was a magic mirror. You looked in it, he would tell you could see what it was or the future or whatever. So I wonder if we could get that mirror, guys. I would love to take a look at it just to see, is it like a regular mirror, And so the Queen would send like her little minions to go see what they see and then relay back to him. And his house became like a private college, rooms aside for scientists, labs, experiments, famous, powerful people, celebrities, whatever would come, like Edward Dwyer. He was the Chancellor of the Order of the Garter, Adrian Gilbert, brother to Sir Walter Raleigh. And of course, Walter Raleigh, one of Dee's closest associates. So again, we find these powerful people, the top dogs of power, all doing magic. Halloween is celebrated in mockery of Martin Luther's decree. David, interesting. I never heard that before. Interesting. That's I never knew that. All Christian with pagan worship muddy the waters, fall on occult worship. Yeah, I mean, that's how it seems, Lashin. Seems like that to me as well. John Dee's usurped the throne by making his thumb disappear. That's very funny. It's very funny. Okay. If I had a laugh track, Flippy, I would have played it for you right there. That was good. His most important work was Monas Hieroglyphica. It's an alchemical language or something like that. And he dedicated to King Maximilian of the Holy Roman Empire. And King Rudolph was also interested and got a copy of his book. And Dee concluded, like the Templars, like every single Gnostic secret society, that there is a 4-letter word that held the secrets of creation. Kabbalists believe this as well. All secret societies' roots as an Egyptian religion as well. The Rosicrucian secret doctrine was encapsulated in the Mona sign that Dee created. So this 4-letter word, the real name of God that allows you to perform magic. That's why Moses was able to do it. That's why Jesus was able to do it. And that's what these secrets, one of the top things they look for is the name, or maybe they say they have the name of God and they can do magic then. But it's amazing like that this belief or search for this weird truth has been so prevalent and strong. And it just reinforces my thinking that they get some sort of benefit. They get a power back from talking to these demons. They get power from talking to these spirits or beings that they maybe pretend to have their best interest, but are demons instead. Because, I pray every day, but no one talks back to me when I pray. No one like God doesn't say, yes, I know you're stressed about this. I will help you. But with these demons, I feel like they have to get something stronger than what you get, than the peace of mind you get when you pray. Don't you guys think? I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Otherwise, why would you do all these secret codes and everything like that unless there was something really important to you and you're getting a response? Now, Dee wasn't just a big dork. He brought 8 children into this world, and his time at Moor Lake, Dee wrote down to earth subjects as like creating the Navy for England, using the trip to measure trigonometry to measure the distance of the stars. Another tie to our pirate episode, he was writing letters to Mercator, and Mercator told him that he received map info on maps from a guy, Jacob Canonian, and who also worked with a guy, Abraham Ortelius. Now listen to this. Ortelius was a Flemish cartographer and a creator of the first modern atlas. He was also referred to as a priest with the astrolabe, who was a Franciscan friar named Nicholas Lynn, who taught to use the key navigational equipment 2 centuries earlier. His letters also discussed early visitors to the lands west of the Atlantic Ocean, including King Arthur and Prince Madoc, who was a prince of a Welsh royal family that came over here. They intermingled with the Indians. That they then got bred out, and that this tribe, I forget which one it is, they have all these written documents that look like Welsh or whatever, looked like a European language. And they say, who wrote these? And they say, our ancestors did. And they say, can you read them? And they said, no. So there's obviously somebody came over, right? But so Dee was talking to Mercator, who was already talking about all this new information that shouldn't be out yet, right? Okay, Dee would write Perfect Navigation of 1577, which inspires Sir Raleigh to send 3 expeditions to modern-day Virginia, named so for the Virgin Queen. And the flag of the colony depicted Bacon's goddess. The Virginia colony depicted on the flag the Athena, the goddess, with the spear and helmet that Bacon would use as well. And Raleigh would eventually be executed by his country. But he influenced the exploration of the New World. He was buddies with John Dee. He searched the astral world. Through Dee, the archangel Anael would appear to Raleigh in the stone. And Talmud says that this angel was a messenger who conveyed God's knowledge to man. And that was all John Dee. Okay, so John Dee encouraged the exploration of the New World, astral world, and angels, quote unquote, angels would appear to him, giving him knowledge. So I don't know if you guys know, here's a fun fact. So John Dee would use a seeing stone, and he got obsidian from the Mayans or Incas with all these travels back and forth. So he had an obsidian stone that he would scry and speak to demons with. And this is also housed in room 46 museum, along with his conjuring table and other paraphernalia. And another angel named Uriel visited him through his stone. So through his stones, he's calling up long distance constantly. He's like, yo, who this? Yo, New Rock, who this? Yo, what up, Anael? What do you got to tell me today, buddy? And he created his own Enochian language. That is the language from the angels, supposedly. So clearly he's not insane. I didn't know this backstory about John Dee. He is brilliant man. So smart, so well learned. He's not just talking to fake voices in his head and then going back to writing letters with Mercator, right? That's not how it works. So I found that just insane. He would end up writing 5 supernatural books that recorded his conversations with the angels. Somebody should check that out. I don't think I can do it because it's going to be too insane, but he wrote 5 books about his rock conversations. New rock, who dis? I like that. I think that was kind of amusing, right? I'm trying to think of another cell phone joke to do with the rock, but that's all right. What's up, Dave? What's going on, dude? So through his stones, he wrote 5 books, and I saw him. I'm gonna get some. We'll talk about him then. And Dee was having visions of the 1960s in America in the 1580s. He eventually arrived in Prague, welcomed by the Habsburg Emperor Rudolph II. He was the guy that I was talking about, the most eccentric monarch. His court was filled with dwarfs, giants, astrologers, alchemists, and now John Dee. And he patronized the occult science, but Rudolph didn't like Dee. I think Dee was too smart for him. Rudolph wanted like the insane, like the QAnon type people, maybe, right? In 1603, the queen, Dee's protector, dies, and James I, the new king, he's not a fan of Dee at all. And weirdly, though, King James was a product of Scottish Templarism. So even then, like, he shouldn't hate John Dee because he secretly believes the same things John Dee does. But maybe it was even back then, it wouldn't surprise me. It's the fake, like, oh, we're going to get rid of him. He's a bad guy. The fake controlled opposition type of deal. And under James I, Dee was on his way out as Bacon was rising. So they're passing the torch, okay? So Dee and Bacon understood, and Dee passed the secrets to Bacon. In 1655, Jacob Katz published a book of woodcuts, one depicting an elderly wizard passing a lamp to a young man of the court. This is, 50 years later or whatever. Or not 50 years later, like 20 years. Between them is an open vault. And this is important, guys. So there's an open vault. This vault is real. It's containing books, notes, evidence, tons of Dee's learning he put in this vault. And some believe this vault is beneath the River Wye in England or underneath the Bruton Church in Virginia. Some think it's a series of vaults buried in Oak Island. There are more locations, but we're totally running out of time. And that'll be next episode, all about John Dee's vaults and what's in it. And the woodcut of John, these two characters, not John Dee and not Francis Bacon passing the torch, also have a large rose on Bacon's shoe. What are the odds of that? Above Bacon's tomb in St. Michael's Church, a picture of a young man with the same rose in his shoe buckle, though many believe this isn't his actual resting place. So again, unless Francis Bacon's boys did this, what are the odds that two different artists put the same rose on the same type of shoe on a character, one that is Bacon and one that isn't Bacon, or, not really Bacon? What are the odds of that? Very low, astronomically low. And so Dee has been left by academia in our current day, but Ian Fleming, James Bond, who had ties to Rosicrucianism, he would carry on John Dee's existence, making 007. And Dee would die in 1608. Before he died, he gave the Queen Elizabeth, he told the Queen, this is how he inspired the New World. Someone should read the Vatican Library and digitize everything. That would be so gosh darn amazing. Oh, sorry, I missed all these. David, was getting information channeled through demons the way Bob Dylan wrote music? Dude, yes. The voices are not internal. They're external, as John Dee explored. I agree, Lachlan. I totally agree. And yes, a total magic book stash. But so before he died, he told Queen Elizabeth that King Arthur is her ancestor and that he never really died in Europe. He went to west to the New World. And this is why England has claims to America, because if King Arthur claimed America, well, it's now Liz's. And he also told the Queen that Prince Madoc, the Welsh king, had also been to America before the Spanish. So she has more, even more reason to claim America. So that is the show tonight, guys. I feel like Francis Bacon part was kind of boring. What do you guys think? I love the John Dee stuff, but I'm worried the beginning of the show wasn't that exciting. So I hope you enjoy it and you learned something. Tomorrow, I have a guy. So let me know what you guys think. If we should move away from this book or you want to keep going. I think it's about to get real interesting. But tomorrow, I have one of my favorite people, Pete Quinones. I've never had him on before, but I've listened to him so much. He is, thanks, David. Thank you. He's so articulate. He's coming on tomorrow at 8:30. I hope to see you guys there. Ask him some tough questions. He's just such a brilliant thinker. And he's changed. He's grown in his beliefs, like whichever direction, whether it's right, growing or shrinking. I guess that's to be decided. But yeah, Flippy, I love Pete. He's just so awesome, dude. And then Thursday, I got Brad Binkley from Freedom Cart Radio. I forget. He used to be on the show with Monica Perez, I think the Propaganda Report. And so with them, he did some research on Templars in America today. And so we're going to combine our Templar knowledge to make a Templar superhero, or a Templar, what's it called? What's the Power Rangers Megazord? A Templar Megazord. So I'm Jack Allen, everybody. Thanks for listening. I'm glad you guys had enjoyed and learned something. That's always my goal, is some learning. And tomorrow, 8:30, Thursday at 8:30. I'll see you guys then. Take care and God bless. And if I don't hear from you or see you, have a Merry Christmas. Thanks, everybody. Peace.